Hello, everyone. My name is Johnny Beard. I'm the director and founder of Breakawave's concierge reward service. And I'm here tonight with Bernard Kassab from Ucidity Digital Marketing.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here with you this evening.
Awesome. Good to have you here. So, wanted to have a good chat with you tonight and find out a bit more about your experience with creating Ucidity and your
Sure.
background in digital marketing, and tell some of our community a little bit about what you're all about.
Yeah, sure. So I kicked off Ucidity actually just recently. We kind of launched the business officially February 20, a couple of weeks before COVID and the lockdown kicked off. But I've been in the industry, had my own branding and design agency for 11 years, running it full time for the last 5-6 years. During that time, I met a web developer, which we started to build a very close relationship. And together, uh, January of last year, we decided we would start the process of bringing our two businesses together and offering that full end-to-end service. So it was about integrating the brand experience and what we create within that branding implementation, and carrying it through how it then transitions online through the website, through inbound marketing, through like the customer experience. So how do we use automation, funnels, landing pages to integrate that experience from every touch point of the brand? And that way you create a unified brand positioning, and it becomes what your business is essentially known for and how people resonate and connect with your business. So that's what we wanted to create, and which is why we produced this brand Ucidity, which is essentially that end-to-end experience of creating a brand from woe to go, from from idea to launch.
Mm. What type of clients do you find that you really gel with when it comes to digital marketing and really helping a client get from A to B?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's kind of two schools here. So we have a really good foundation, kind of like that mid-sized type business or upper small type business, which is that $5 to $25 million business that has 20 to 80 seats. They might have a marketing coordinator of sorts, like a marketing manager or a CMO or something, but they need somebody to help them actually facilitate it. How do they actually roll that out across the brand and make it effective in that rollout? Because there's not enough resource for a single individual to have enough capability within design, within web, within CRM, within integration, within automation. Like there's so many different components that come with all that. And we have a team behind us. So that's why we like to support those kind of businesses, because we can do that kind of end-to-end story piece for them. We also have packages and products that are scaled for that small business operator, for that either that small business that's looking to kind of leverage that growth that they've already created, or they're a startup and they haven't got off the ground yet. So we've got small business packages that we do for brand development to get you up and online and trading with all the elements you need to do that as a business. And then we have ways of scaling, our inbound marketing packages, etc., to kind of fit in with what the typical cash flow looks like for a business. So what we try and do in the early stages is get a really good understanding of what your cash flow will look like, what your average customer will look like, what the potential value of a customer will be for you. So that way we can scale a strategy and a rollout that's going to fit with your business, allow you to start making some quick wins and to hit the ground running if you're a new business.
I guess a lot of our viewers and people in our community, the scale of what digital marketing, their understanding of what that means for business will obviously vary from understanding what you're talking about to I have no idea what this guy's talking about. So the people that are perhaps not in business yet, they're listening to this, or just starting out, what would you say digital marketing does in terms of kickstarting a business? And is it something that they should be starting at the start of the business, or is it a year in?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. I think that comes down to where you have the capability and the cash flow to get started, I think everyone should start off with some brand implementation, because what you want to do is start building trust and a relationship around something that you're willing to grow and build a foundation around for a period of time. Now, it doesn't mean that once you started with that branding, you can't change it in the future, but it's always good to start with something that really resonates with you, that will resonate with your potential customer, that you feel confident in going into market with. It's like, I explain it to people as, imagine you showed up to a job interview wearing your pajamas. How likely do you think you'll be to get that job? Well, think about it when you're meeting with a client. How likely do you think you'll be to get a client if you don't have a couple of the foundational pieces in place? You know, a good-looking proposal deck, a good brand that's consistent, something that makes you confident to go out to market. A lot of people, you find they start up their small business and they go, oh, that'll do. I'll just put something together quickly. And you can see that they're not confident behind that brand that they've created. And you're like, well, why would you position yourself like that? You know, why would you show up to this interview in pajamas? You know, like, it just doesn't make sense if that's how you want to position yourself, or that's the kind of business you want to develop. So there are small things at the beginning to get right that will help you just kind of build a good foundation and start to build those good customer relationships. As you start to learn through that, that's when you really want to then take it to that next level. So the start is definitely a learning process. Look at where, look at what other people are doing, look at what's working and not working for your business. Start to learn and understand that before you jump straight into marketing. Because if you start marketing your business in the wrong position, or you start marketing your business to the wrong person, that can be a lot of money that's kind of thrown down the drain. So you want to kind of get your branding right. You want to have a basic understanding and experience with your customers to see what resonates and what doesn't resonate with them. Then from there, digital marketing at a minimum is a 6-month engagement. There are some people who can do things for 3 months, a month, this and that. Yeah, you might get lucky and do a one-off shot in the dark and make some good sales off it. But if you really want to learn and build a marketing strategy that's going to grow and develop over time, you need at least 6 months of data to be able to make that effective. And with that 6 months of data, whether or not you decide to continue, that 6 months of data is still relevant. So if you're going to jump into marketing, make sure it's a marketing budget that you can afford for 6 months. So when you're sitting there with your digital agency, let them know what the budget is. Be like, okay, look, right now I'm happy to spend $2,000 a month on digital marketing. What would be the best strategy that we could work towards making some quick wins or some big wins in a 6-month process, you know? And based on that, you've already said, okay, 6 months, that's going to be, what is that, 6 times 2, 12 grand. Okay, cool. I've put 12 grand aside. That's what I'm going to align for the budget for this project. And that's the best way to approach marketing. You don't want to go in there and go, ooh, I don't really know what my budgets are. I don't really have that much to spend. Set the budget, set the tone. That way they can build a strategy that's going to be as effective as it can be for a $2,000 spend. If you say, look, I want that social media, I want that, I want that email marketing, I want some inbound marketing, I want some landing pages, this and that, and then they come back with a $6,000 proposal, it might be everything you want. But if you only have $12,000 in the bank or $12,000 in your perceived cash flow, then you're only going to get 2 months out of that. And you're not going to get the return or the data that you need to build off that. So you're better off going, okay, we have $2,000. What can we do with that $2,000 spend over a 6-month period? And I'll always chart and plan for at least a minimum of 6 months execution, 6 months rollout. You know?
I guess you already answered my next question that I had, which was, if I'm a newbie starting out in business, at what point do I bring someone like yourself, an expert in digital marketing, into the picture? And I guess that would entirely depend on my budget.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 2 things. Like, I think definitely budget. And then the other thing is, I think on a timing perspective, there's never a wrong time to talk to a marketer. What is not great is not to set an expectation. So let them know where you stand. We constantly have it where a client will just go silent, and we know the client's just gone silent because they're not ready to buy yet. But if you let us understand and go, look, this isn't something that I can do right now, but it's something I want to do in 6 months' time. Let me get together the cash flow to do so. And in 6 months' time, let's reconnect. And if they're a good marketer, they'll have a system or a process to ensure that they reach back out to you in 6 months' time. And if they're not, then you just kind of prove to yourself that they're probably not that great on customer experience. And essentially that's what digital marketing and marketing in general is all about. It's about the customer's experience. And if they haven't provided you with a good experience and you're chasing them, well, you can already forget about them. Find one that chases you and knows your timelines and is able to program themselves or strategize around your timelines, and let them know. Be like, okay, this is the project I want to do in 6 months' time. What do I need to build up to that? Because that's the other fact, is you don't know yet. You don't know what it's going to cost you. You don't know how much it's going to cost. You don't know what it's going to take to implement. So it's always good to go out, kind of prospect what it will take to get your digital marketing spend off the ground, how much it's going to take to do that. So then you can start to chart a course. You can start to put away those finances. You can start to plan your cash flow around a digital marketing spend.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And I think you can probably take that advice and relay that into other industries, not just digital marketing as well.
Yeah, I think for any business spend, it's always good to kind of prospect, find where you stand, find a good supplier that you're happy with. And if you're not ready to move forward, then let them know where you're at and chart a time in your timeline when you'll be ready to kick off with them. Another thing that came to mind actually was also, I'm in the process of compiling a bit of a book around a startup calculator type book, which basically says these are all the things that you essentially need to start up a business. It's mainly skewed towards like professional service type businesses. And essentially, the maths kind of works out, it's between 15 and 20 odd grand. So if you're not yet started your business and you're looking to eventually start and you're working a full-time role, I would suggest partition a bit of your salary out, because you know exactly how much is coming in every month. Partition a little bit out until you have around 15 to 20 grand saved up. That'll be enough to get all your legal documentation done, have an accountant on board, have a bookkeeper on board, get your branding done, get a basic website up, get your content up and online, get your social media set up, all those kind of foundational things you need for a business. It kind of tabulates to around 15, 20 grand. A lot of people get really excited when they decide they want to start a business and they just jump straight into it. And they only have what's, the shirt on their back and a couple $1,000 that they have from their last paycheck. And then you're constantly battling to continue to build that brand because you're waiting for money to come in so you can then spend it for the next thing that you need. But we always kind of talk to our future startups and say, okay, if you put away that 15, 20 grand, you're going to be able to start up and get everything you need in line without feeling like you're stressing or straining to do so. Yeah. So that's kind of our recommendation.
Would you say that, for someone in that early stage, I guess playing in the water of being the digital marketer themselves in the early days, would you advise them on doing that for themselves to just get their feet wet, try it out, learn some of the do's and don'ts before they meet someone like you? Or would you say stay away from it until you get to that really building the brand phase of the business?
I think that's a great question. It's neither here nor there. I think, well, actually, the risk you take with doing it yourself is that you do it wrong, you get burnt by the experience, and then you say, this stuff doesn't work, and you toss it out the window. Now, just think about that the next time you decide to do your own accounting and wonder whether you're as good as your accountant at doing it. You're probably not, right? And if you think about that with any other avenue within your business, how many times are you as good as the person you end up employing to do that role for you? You're probably not that good at it. You know what I mean? That's why you employed somebody else to do it. Now, in marketing, because it's so easy to get into it, it's not like you can become a CPA tomorrow. It's so easy to get into marketing because all the dashboards are publicly available to everybody. The software is publicly available to everybody. Everyone thinks I can go in there and just start dabbling and then magic will appear. And sometimes you get lucky. But just think about how much time you just invested trying to make magic happen when you could have got somebody who's an expert to do it and do it in probably 1/10 of the time. In the digital marketing space, we do it every now and then as well with our own brand. We'll take like $200 or $250 and we'll just spend it on a little bit of ads. But just remember, if you're spending that little bit of money on an ad campaign, you are just just having a play in the water. You're just having a splash. It's not enough to actually create some traction in the business. It's just enough to get a gauge, to just get some data. So if you are playing around, be careful, set your budgets, And remember, just as much as we do, you're trying to gain data. And if you don't have the budgets to gain a lot of data, then gain a little bit of data and take that learning to somebody who might be able to do something with it. But don't expect the magic to happen if you only put $250 in, because I guarantee there's somebody else out there spending 2, 3, 4, 5,000. So it's not about how you spend your money, it's how smart you can spend the money. And if you don't have the excitement, the drive to really get in there and get your hands dirty, then give it to somebody who does it every day.
Yeah. One of the things I got from that is something that we encounter quite regularly with running a concierge service. Majority of the clients that we talk to as a concierge are often business owners, because we are obviously helping grow and support their business, but also sourcing things they need. And one of the most common things that you get at some point in that business is they realize that they can't do everything. They can't be all things to all people in the business. So it's a learning curve, and it can depend with which industry you're in. But at some point they realize, well, I can't be the digital marketer and the data guy and the IT guy and the customer service guy or girl. And at some point they have to start delegating and releasing that control over the brand, and it's that next threshold in the business. So that's something I think you probably come across in digital marketing all too well. At what point where do they go, right, we've got our 20 grand, we're ready to bring in the digital marketing guy? One question I had was in regards to what, from your perspective, given that we're in the age of social media and personal branding, and it's all very prevalent, what would be some of the do's and don'ts that you see on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, I got some good ones. I think the first one that comes straight to mind is number one. I got a couple now. Okay, so number one, the definite don't. Do not start a blog or a social media page if you only ever intend to post one thing on it for the entire life of that social media page or that blog. It's great to kind of hold the space and hold it for your own and own that page, and you definitely want to own that page as quickly as possible when you're looking at Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, if you're planning to tweet or use the platform. But because the last thing you want is to get into your marketing strategy and not have those platforms available to you. But on the other side of that, don't get into them and then just leave them dormant. The worst thing is, like, we have a client that we just onboarded recently, and he hasn't posted an article since 2017. It's like, imagine what that looks like to your customers. You might as well just close the blog. Like, don't even have the blog open if the last time you're going to post anything was 3-4 years ago. It just makes it look like something's either gone wrong for the business, or that your business is too busy to cater to those other avenues, those other channels within your business. So you don't want to leave channels dormant. You don't want to leave them dead, So if you're going to start them, have a plan to them and create content. It doesn't have to be a good plan. It doesn't have to be a good strategy, but every now and then I'm sure you can afford to post one thing on Facebook or on your own website. And also for SEO perspective, Google doesn't like old content. They like new content, they like fresh content. If you have a blog and it hasn't been updated since 2017, that's going to hurt your SEO. Whereas if you're updating it regularly, then that's going to have incrementally better and better effect for your SEO. Like, even recently, our agency is number 3 on Google for inbound marketing. And we just popped up there. We produce content, probably about 4 to 5 pieces of content a week at the moment, between me and my business partner. So we're pretty aggressive with our content strategy, which is also key to being a marketing agency. We can't talk the talk if we don't walk the walk, So we kind of live very much by our own philosophies. I think another thing is, be careful on how your name comes together when it is turned into a single word. What I mean by that is that, let's say your business is called the Success Club, and you write, at the Success Club is your handle. Just make sure there's no other words that are spelled inside of the Success Club that are maybe a little embarrassing, I saw one recently that had a profanity that was spelt when the two words that were stuck together, and I looked at it and went, did they even read this before they put this all together? Like, it's pretty obvious that it says, you know, it's right there in the middle of the name, you know. So just be careful if you're gonna mash your name together, which is what you have to do to make a handle for social media. Just check that that handle doesn't end up creating a very, you know, undesirable name for the business, especially one that people can use against you when they're upset. You know, I think those are two things. The other thing is, especially with reviews, be responsive. If somebody leaves you a review, jump on and make sure you comment, leave feedback, say thank you, you know, appreciate your feedback, even if it's negative, like a negative comment, respond to that person. People don't care so much about negative reviews. It's almost, from what we see from user behavior, when you see positive reviews, you don't really go to read them. You know, like if it's 5 stars, you're like, whatever, what's the point of reading them? Everyone's going to say it's brilliant, right? Because it's 5 stars. But when it's like 3.5 or 3.7 or something like that, or even when it's 4.5, you're like, who was the bad review and what did they say? You know, people, it generates an interest. People want to know. If they scroll down and they see this negative comment and they see no response in any way, shape, or form from your company taking, you know, springing into action, then all they see is that you're not responsive to negative feedback. You're not responsive to a customer's complaint. I had that recently with, I don't know if I should name them. Yeah, I will. I had it recently with Spotlight, and I didn't get a response from them on their Google reviews that I left them at all. And then it took them about 5 days for them to respond to me on their chats on Facebook. And I was like, I just wanted to buy 3 products. I couldn't find a store that had it available. I didn't see why it would be so difficult to respond to these platforms. Why even have a chat function on their page if they're not responding to it? Like, just deactivate it, or get rid of or create an automated response that says, we do not man this chat. Please call this phone number in order to get a hold of our head office, something like that. So that would be the next one. The next thing is that have a follow-on process. So whether you can or can't man all these different channels and have the resources to do that, create some automation, have them respond for themselves, figure out a way that you don't have to be dedicated to those channels if you don't have the resources to be dedicated to those channels. That way, again, people don't feel neglected. The worst thing you can do is your brand starts to become the experiences that people have with the brand. And if your brand suddenly becomes synonymous with neglecting responding to customers, it's not a great place to kind of leverage into the market, especially when the negative feedback starts to come back in a public form. So make sure you have the channels to manage customer relations and the follow-up and the nurturing of those customers. So, you know, as you grow, you'll find that more and more difficult, and that's where automation and obviously employing a team becomes more and more viable for you. So, but in the early stages, find ways to kind of negate things slipping through the cracks.
That's great. From everything you've told me so far, I think all of it comes back to the key of communication. That's what I really get. It's communication with a digital marketer when it comes to what should we take on, what's the process there, through to customer engagements, communication, response times, communication. And really, that's really what I get from the crux of what a digital marketer is all about is what's the communication, what's the message that a business is trying to convey through to the communication between you and them working on a business level.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about like a high level of transparency. The more transparent you can be with your customers, the more efficient you can be with your customers, the more your customers will appreciate that. And even if you don't end up being the one that provides them the service, like we've even had that experience recently where we got referred to another client when we didn't even service the client, just based on the level of value that we provided. You know, because the decision was out of his hands, but it didn't mean that he didn't want to still work with us in some capacity. So maintaining a good and positive customer relationship is key to it all. And you're right, communication, like the degree I actually did in college was called communication design. And it's really interesting that you said that communication is the crux to it, because essentially that's what we're doing. We're finding methods to effectively communicate your brand and how you position, what you stand for, those values, and how that transitions into the relationships you build with customers. How do we communicate that effectively through all the visual aspects and the communication platforms that we use within a business? And that's essentially what it's all about, through brand to marketing.
That's great. So just to finish up and wrap up the podcast, because it's been a great chat and I've learned things as well. I'd like to finish on what would be one nugget that you could give someone that's in business that want to take on, or they might already have a digital marketer, it's not going so well. What's one nugget that you can give someone that really wants to kick some goals with digital marketing as a service?
Well, it's got me thinking, actually. What is a gold nugget that I could let you walk away with? I think one of the most important things is clarity. Really understand what your vision is for the brand, what your goals are for whatever campaign you're going to run, really get some tangibles around what the potential actually looks like. So then when you're making your investment or when you're making a decision to go down that line, you actually have a really good idea of what you're about to get yourself into. And it comes from a place that actually resonates with the foundations of the brand that you're trying to create. So I think really having a vision and a goal is super important. And people probably hear that all the time, and write your business plan, have a proper strategy, et cetera, et cetera. But if you walk into a room not knowing what you're expecting to get out of it, and you get nothing to get out of it, then really the marketing agency delivered exactly what you expected. You had no idea, so why would they, right? So set the tone, set the goal, understand what's achievable. They'll also put in the guides to what they believe is actually achievable. But then you've set a tone, you've set a baseline to then build from. So I think that's super important.
That's great. Communication and clarity. I think those are two potent ones. So for anyone that's looking and got value from this conversation, you can request Bernard or one of our digital marketing experts through your concierge. So you can do that by sending a message through our Facebook or going to our website, which is www.breakawave, breakawave.com. We have a support team that are here in Australia on the chat. That's not a bot, that's actual people on our website ready to take your request, or you can just register if you haven't already, and you can just put a request through. For those that don't know, the concierge is a complimentary service because we work with awesome people like Bernard here. So we just want to say thanks for jumping on the call, Bernard, and sharing all your nuggets of wisdom with our network community. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And likewise, man.
And we'll be in touch to help you with things that you need, Bernard.
Definitely. It's been a pleasure so far. I'm really happy to be part of the network and looking forward to many more conversations. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. We'll be in touch.
Talk soon.